Greetings from King Edward VII's Hospital. I need to first of all thank all those wonderful people who have sent the beautiful flowers and the nice presents. Thank you very much. Please don't send any more. It's really sweet of you, but they discourage flowers. I've got flowers in the room, but I can't show them, sorry, because there's not the surfaces for them. But please, they don't like flowers. Can you believe it? In my day, everybody loved flowers, but nowadays, no. But thank you so much. Beautiful flowers and beautiful presents, many of which have come with no identifying features whatsoever. What can I say? It's lovely to feel appreciated and loved, really. Thank you. And now, without further ado, I am going to plunge in with what Oreo J says. I think Andrew has been treated unfairly now. His princely title should not have come into this. I don't like his arrogance and stupidity at all. But we have the principle of innocent until proven guilty in this country. The witch hunt by the lefty media anti-monarchists has been shameful in the extreme. Meanwhile, a traitor is living in California, exploiting his royal titles for money at the behest of his dreadful wife, and nothing is being done about it. Unbelievable. Well, it's not surprising nothing is being done about it, because they are on the right side of the political divide, which is they are to the left of centre. And as long as they are to the left of centre, their shenanigans will be allowed to prevail. But it is turning out that this whole matter is far larger than I certainly believed it was. And I always thought it was larger than it appeared to be. And I thought it was larger than the mainstream media have been allowing us to believe it was. But in fact, it's even larger than that. But I will get to that not today, but tomorrow, because I still need I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed. But this is being orchestrated at government level, and it's not only one government that is assisting in the orchestration of it. It's several governments, including, it would appear, elements of our own. That's right. The British government is behind some of it as well. Could you make any of this up? Not a chance. But I can't at this juncture tell you how the I's are placed and the T's are in need of crossing. I'll be able to tell you tomorrow, but I can't tell you today. Sorry. High for Safety says, the only words I can use to describe you are Super Trooper, or more formally, Lady Indomitable. Wow, The question of the hour is, will Andrew be charged and then prosecuted? Strangely, what he might be charged and prosecuted for is left open. Virginia Giuffre is his only female accuser, as far as is known. After waiting 5 long years to clear Professor Dershowitz' name, after publicly accusing him, no prosecution can succeed based on her words alone. She was above the age of consent when she met Andrew, and he was not the only one who paid her and wouldn't have discussed paying her with Epstein. He didn't pay her. According to her, Epstein is the one who paid her. The prosecutor's case has more holes than fretwork. So again, what might Andrew be charged with? American politicians aiming to distract. It is partly American politicians aiming to distract, but it's also British politicians aiming to distract, because the British politicians who are involved are up to hair in the brown stuff in other areas, and they understand that as long as there is this massive distraction taking place, they are safe. And they're hoping to spin it out even more massively. Those are the politicians who have something to hide. The others who have nothing to hide but all to benefit from are also eager to spin it out. This is an anti-monarchist dream. This is a woke Republican, as in British Republican, not American Republican. British pro-Republican movement dream. And it's happening before our very eyes. Andrew can't be charged with a crime where Virginia Giuffre is committed. First of all, she's dead, so dead people can't give evidence. Secondly, even when she was alive, he couldn't be charged with a crime because he committed no crime. It's not a criminal offence for a Briton of 40 to sleep with a 17-year-old who then asserts that she told her employer, "I scored," and he gave her $15,000 recompense. There's no crime committed there, save possibly the crime of deception and false representation. If she did indeed score and she earned the money fair and square, that's not a crime in England. The crime of receiving recompense for physical favours does not exist. That's a fact, believe it or not. So, Andrew can't be charged with a crime, but Andrew is falling not because of the Giuffre business alone, but because of the deeply unsavouriness of his and his ex-wife's antics with regard to trying to make money for themselves. Let's be clear about it. He is being toppled for what is effectively unbecoming behaviour in public life. Let's leave it at that. M. Ware says, "You are truly magnificent, Lady C." Thank you. If everyone with a public profile were to shed this much light on NHS practices and the collusion with health insurance, maybe serious auditing of hospital practices would be done. At present, they are just a scam, like housing, whose main concern is to pander to illegals. DEI and keep the bigger bucks flowing into the propaganda machine instead of the true welfare of the people whose taxes are spent on it. Love, healing, and protection to you for a speedy recovery. Thank you very much. I'm afraid I'm going to need to get some water because my mouth is perpetually dry from all the drugs I'm taking. They have been drugged up to my eyeballs so I can basically, well, I wouldn't even say function, but breathe freely. I've never had my mouth so dry before, but then I'd never been on morphine for a week. Just incredible. Well, I have been utterly stunned by what is effectively a corrupt system. I was speaking to my GP, who is a very eminent member of the British medical profession, and she was telling me how in the 1970s, when she was in the NHS, that she came across a case of a baby who needed a pacemaker, failing which it was going into heart failure, and it would have ultimately destroyed the baby's brain before it killed it. And the baby stood no chance unless it were given a pacemaker. And she recommended that the baby be given a pacemaker because that was the only and the simplest cure. I mean, pacemakers aren't that expensive. And the hospital refused to allow her recommendation to stand. And when she looked into it, she discovered that some department of health or whatever, I don't remember the ins and outs of it now, but I know the gist of it. Some department within the Ministry of Health, let's put it that way, had written to the hospital to tell them that they needed to make savings in this, shall we say, machinery department. And one of the savings they were going to make was by refusing to purchase the pacemaker. That meant the baby would die. It also meant the baby would take a long time to die. well, it might take a long time to die, let's put it that way, as opposed to definitely. But however long it took for the baby to die meant that it was going to be consuming National Health Service resources. So it was a totally false economy. And on that basis, sorry, you have to bear with me. I'm not able to function in a totally civil manner. Sorry. So on that basis alone, it was a false economy. And she went to the hospital management and she pointed all of this out to them. And she let them know that she knew of this cost-cutting directive and that and why they were therefore preventing the supply of a really simple and relatively inexpensive piece of material that would make a material difference to not only the baby's life, but the National Health Service itself, because it would be saving the National Health Service so much money. And she said their reaction was to listen, to allow the operation to go ahead, and then to dismiss her for basically being a whistleblower and for basically being disloyal to the National Health Service by daring to speak the truth. And she said to them, she said, "I'm sorry, I took a Hippocratic oath. My oath requires that I behave as I have behaved." And they said, "Yeah, but the National Health Service cannot allow people like you to function within it." So even in the 70s, the rot had already set in. Of course, it was starting then. It's come to fruition now. And the system is totally broken because there is such conflict within the system and such conflicting aims and such mutually exclusive productivities and possibilities that the system no longer is capable, A, of functioning at all, and B, of producing a positive result. The whole thing needs to be dismantled and reassembled. And they need to remember that the National Health Service should be about the health of people in this nation. And that's what they need to understand, that it's about the health of the people. And the health of the people cannot possibly be well served by having a corrupt and a rotten system in place that prevents success, because that's what's happening at the moment. The Office of Nanny's Teacup says, I just love some of these names. "I say with sadness and regret, but I truly believe that this whole situation has damaged the monarchy and is leaving a mess for William. As much as I loved our late Queen, I feel that she should have realised that this was storing up a festering cauldron of problems for the crown and future monarch." Charles has been too indecisive. Whether or not Andrew is guilty of anything is unfortunately irrelevant. The dark forces have gathered and used this against our constitutional monarchy and standing around the world. Now it is time for the king to reflect on Harry and his snooty wench and how they have also damaged our monarchy and country. They have played games with what is sacred to many, and now it's time for consequences of their behaviour. They have had many chances to apologise, but instead they have twisted the knife and embarrassed the royal family and our nation. Carl, well, okay, I hear what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. But this is, as I said, much bigger than everybody has thought it was. This Prince Andrew business is the collusion of various anti-monarchist organizations in whose interest it is to deflect attention away from their wrongdoing. And they know that the easiest victim of all is a royal victim. Royals do not naturally attract sympathy. Diana attracted a lot of sympathy, but this was not natural because Diana cast herself in the role of underdog. And Diana used the British proclivity towards protecting the underdog against the royal family. I said it at the time. It was obvious. But what is happening now is that there are a series of forces, and it's not one force, some of which are in conflict with each other, some of which, ironically enough, are pro-monarchist, or their leaders and affiliates are pro-monarchist. But none of this is mattering at a fundamental level, because each of the entities that has, shall we say, a foot in the race will benefit from what is going on. And yes, the Queen has, to an extent, her reputation has been damaged. And that is to the good where these people are concerned, because they cannot undermine the monarchy and work towards its destruction unless they manage to somehow pollute the Queen's legacy and have a rethink on the respect which she earned over her 70 years on the throne, so that she ended up being the most revered public figure on earth, and certainly the most revered head of state. They need to have that neutralized, and one of the ways that it is being neutralized is by having this Andrew business, so that the Queen can be accused of covering up for her son. She can be accused of tolerating corruption. So she will be tainted with the brush that is being used to tar Andrew. You know, a very eminent member of the legal profession said to me earlier today that this situation is very reminiscent of the Carl Beech situation. Carl Beech was a fantasist, and a known fantasist, who was left-wing. Tom Watson, the deputy leader of the Labour Party, used Carl Beech to be anti the Conservative Party, which was in power at the time, to create a situation whereby Carl Beech would be regarded as a credible witness, notwithstanding the fact that Carl Beech was known to be a fantasist and a malignant fantasist at that. He's ended up in prison for 18 years for having made all sorts of spurious accusations against political leaders, all Conservative. Lord Bramall, who was the Chief of Staff of the Army, Lord Britton, Leon Britton, who died being accused of committing the most atrocious paedophilic crimes. He died without realizing that he would be ultimately exonerated. His wife was subjected to the most dreadful time during his death, at a time where she should have been focusing on her husband. She was having to focus on this political witch hunt, which the police said was credible. They said that Carl Beech was credible. They said he was a very credible witness. It turned out he was totally incredible. But they had no interest in any of the warning signs being read, much less adhered to. So you had the support of the authorities against the politicians who were retired, but who were representatives of the party in power, which the Labour Party was determined to get out of power, and succeeded in getting out of power. Carl Beech was a notorious liar and fantasist, and his stories were ever more increasingly extravagant and ever more increasingly unbelievable. And the more unbelievable they were the more believable the police and the investigators decided they had to be. So the more bizarre that it was the more credible, and the more incredible that it was became the more credible, until the whole thing blew apart under the illogic of the investigation, but not before Lord Bramall's life was severely damaged and Lord Britain's life towards its end was completely ruined. There was also another politician, another Tory politician, whose life was severely derailed by it. Harvey Procter, the former Conservative minister, who his partner is an old friend of mine going back decades. And Harvey worked for my step-nephew-in-law, the Duke of Rutland, Margaret Argyll's grandson. And poor David, the present Duke, was compelled to get rid of poor Harvey because Belvoir Castle is open to the public, and the accusations were such that a Belvoir Castle itself could not continue to employ an innocent man who was being hounded by a fantasist and a political elite which was determined to destroy them all, and very nearly succeeded. Now, this legal friend of mine, who's very eminent, he's an eminent barrister, he's taught the law, he sees tremendous parallels between the Carl Beech situation and the Prince Andrew situation. But I am being given information that is even more incendiary than that. And actually, I would believe anything from certain sources because I know them to be utterly reliable. But even I was taken aback to discover the identity of the person who is in the frame. I mean, we really live in incredible times with the most incredible things happening. So unbelievable. You couldn't make any of it up. You really couldn't. And on that note, I'm going to say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of interest to you. May I ask you to please keep in the comments section the conversation going so I will know, as a result of your input, what matters I should be addressing with you. Okay? Thank you so much. Take good care and Godspeed. Bye-bye.